Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that's, well, it's more than just a battle. Picture this: 3,000 men staring down an army of 200,000. The outcome wasn't measured in victory or defeat, but in something far deeper: pure courage and unwavering conviction. Okay, let's unpack this. These powerful words, victory or martyrdom, they weren't just some battle cry. They get to the heart of an impossible choice, an incredible decision made by an army facing what looked like certain death. So let's get into the story behind what that really means. So where does this all begin? Well, you might be surprised to hear it doesn't start on a battlefield. It starts with a diplomatic mission in the northern regions, near Asham, what we know today as Syria and the surrounding area, and it ends with a shocking act of betrayal that sparked a fire that just couldn't be ignored. You see, for centuries, there's been this sacred, unwritten rule between nations, a universal understanding, really. It's this idea of diplomatic immunity. An envoy, an ambassador, must be protected. And that principle was about to be broken in the most brazen way possible. Now, this wasn't just a random act of violence. The sources tell us this happened amidst a pattern of aggression. In the north, Christians were persecuting new Muslims, even killing one of their own governors for converting. The assassination of the envoy was the final straw. This was a clear declaration of war, and something had to be done. So, an army is gathered in response. But here's the fascinating part. It wasn't just about marching off to war. This army was prepared under a strict, and I mean profound, ethical code laid out by the Prophet Muhammad himself. Just look at these instructions. They tell you everything you need to know about this mission. This wasn't about plunder or blind revenge. These rules established that this was a campaign of principle, one that demanded incredible discipline, even when facing an enemy who had shown absolutely no restraint. Now, as the army is getting ready to leave Medina, there's this really moving scene. One of the future commanders, Abdullah ibn Rawawah, is seen crying. But, and this is key, it's not for the reason you'd probably guess. Turns out he wasn't crying because he was afraid of dying in battle. No, he explained that he was weeping because of the sheer weight of this verse from the Quran. He was thinking about the bigger journey, the one into the afterlife, and his own standing before God. It was a powerful moment that put everything into perspective for the whole army. Okay, so with that mindset, with that profound sense of purpose, the army marches on. They get to a place called Ma'an in modern-day Jordan. And it's right there that the terrifying, mind-boggling scale of their challenge becomes crystal clear. Remember the size of their force: 3,000. Just 3,000 men. They were prepared for a difficult fight, sure, but they had absolutely no idea what they were about to see. Because this is what was waiting for them. Not 10,000, not 50,000, 200,000 soldiers, 100,000 professional Roman soldiers, and another 100,000 from allied Arab tribes, described as being dressed in silk to show off their power. Can you just imagine that sight? Faced with odds that are, let's be honest, completely impossible, the army just stops. For 2 whole days they debate. Do we send for help? Do we turn back to save ourselves? I mean, who could blame them? It looked like a suicide mission. But then, Abdullah ibn Rawawah, the same man who was weeping for the hereafter, stands up. And he gives what has to be one of the most moving speeches in history. He completely reframes the entire situation, reminding them that their true strength wasn't in numbers, but in their conviction. He told them to push forward, because one of 2 glorious things would happen. And with that, the debate was over. The conviction was back. The Prophet himself had appointed 3 commanders, one after the other. If the first fell, the second would take over, and so on. And they would all fight under a single white banner. The story of what happens next, the battle itself, is really the story of these 3 incredible men. It's the story of what they were willing to do to keep that one banner flying against a literal sea of enemies. First up was Zaid. He took that banner and didn't hesitate for a second. He charged right into the enemy ranks, holding it high as a beacon for his men, fighting deep within their lines until he was struck down. The second that banner started to waver, Ja'far snatched it up. And what he did next, well, it has become the stuff of legend. It's an unbelievable display of pure, absolute determination. Okay, so try to picture this. He's surrounded, he's holding the banner in his right hand, and his right arm is cut off. He immediately switches it to his left. Then his left arm is also severed. And even then, with no hands left, he embraces the banner with his arms, holding it to his chest until he finally falls. His only focus was that the symbol of their cause would not touch the ground. When they later found his body, they counted over 90 wounds, from swords, spears, arrows. But here's the truly amazing part the sources note. Every single one of those wounds was on the front of his body. That tells you everything. He never, not for a single second, turned his back. For that incredible act of sacrifice, it's related that God compensated him with something beautiful, 2 wings to fly with in paradise. And that's why, to this day, he's known by the revered title, Ja'far Attire, which means Ja'far the Flyer. Finally, Abdullah, the man whose words had pushed them all forward, took the banner. There's this amazing detail where a cousin gave him a piece of meat just to regain some strength. But as he heard the battle raging, he threw it down, realizing that even the smallest worldly comfort was a distraction. He then charged into the fight where he too was martyred. The battle raged until sunset, an army of a few thousand holding its own against 200,000. They left behind a legacy that completely and utterly defies conventional military logic. So what's the big takeaway here? Is that the battle's true significance isn't about victory or defeat on a map. It's about the principles that were so bravely upheld. It's about the willingness to stand for what you believe in, no matter what the cost. And it leaves us with this powerful question, one that echoes from the sands of Muta all the way to us today. What is the true measure of our own strength when the odds are stacked against us? It makes you wonder, where do we find our own conviction when we face our own impossible challenges?